Welcome to the enchanting world of Fairly OddParents. Our protagonist is Timmy Turner, an ordinary 10-year-old boy with his own fairy godparents, Cosmo and Wanda, who grant his every wish. But as his wishes lead to chaos, questions arise. What are these enchanting creatures, and just how will Timmy keep them a secret from the world? Stay tuned to uncover the mysteries in this whimsical journey. So, fairies are like these magical creatures who go around granting wishes to sad kids on Earth. They've got their own world called the Fairy World, and they're all ruled by the cool Fairy Council. But it wasn't always like this. Thousands of years ago, fairies lived in harmony until the darkness attacked with its super strong robots called the Eliminators. It was a fierce war, and the fairies had to combine the strength of all their strongest soldiers to drive it away. However, the ancient ancestors believed that the darkness would make a return, so they gathered millions of their most mighty warriors and sent them to the void to put an end to darkness once and for all. These warriors sacrificed themselves to become stars so they could always provide a shield of light in case darkness ever returned. The ancestors then hid a powerful magic wand somewhere and claimed that one day a chosen warrior would use it to destroy the darkness. But until then, they've got some time to kill. So these fairies spend their days making kids' dreams come true on Earth. Most of them hang out in Fairy World, except for the ones who get to be fairy godparents to those lucky Earth kids. Leading the whole fairy gang are the Fairy Council and Jorgen, who is the strongest fairy to exist. Now, back in the day, they wrote this massive book called The Rules, and let me just tell you, it's like the Fairy Bible. It's got all the do's and don'ts for fairies and their godchildren. But there's one rule you've gotta remember. If a god kid spills the beans about their fairies, and anyone else catches a whiff of it, Jorgen and his crew will swoop in and wipe everyone's memory clean. But hold on to your wands, because fairies, they ain't the only magical beings that exist in the universe of Fairly OddParents. Brace yourselves for the anti-fairies. They're like the complete opposite of our beloved fairies. They dwell in their own realm called Anti-Fairy World, which is a whole parallel dimension next to Fairy World. While fairies are all about spreading joy, these pesky anti-fairies cause bad luck around the world. Oh, and also, you need some sort of special anti-fairy goggles to even see them. So, without those, you couldn't even know where these buggers actually are. The origin of the anti-fairies is a bit of a mystery. They were created by the Fairy Council as a way to contain the evil that existed in the world, but their exact origins are unknown. One theory is that the anti-fairies were created by accident. The Fairy Council was experimenting with a new type of magic, and they accidentally created a race of beings that were the opposite of fairies. But what we actually do know about these beings is that they're led by none other than Anti-Cosmo. Compared to his idiotic fairy part, Anti-Cosmo is an evil genius who is always coming up with ideas to cause havoc in the world. He is still married to Anti-Wanda though. Another cool thing about these beings is that they're the evil counterparts of their fairy sides. So, for instance, for Cosmo, there is Anti-Cosmo, and for Wanda, there's Anti-Wanda. Unfortunately, their wicked nature made them super dangerous, so the Fairy Council had to act fast. They slapped up this incredible magical force field known as the Barrier to keep Fairy World and Anti-Fairy World apart. It's like a wall that basically ensures those anti-fairies can't invade our fairy friends' turf. Besides fairies and anti-fairies, we've also got these cool magical creatures called pixies. They're like wish-granting pros, but they treat magic like a total business. It's all about the bureaucratic paperwork for them. They rock gray business suits and white shirts, black ties, topped off with those rad pointy gray hats. They are led by HP, and just like anti-fairies, their ultimate goal is to dominate the whole universe. Alright, now let's answer that burning question. Who are Cosmo and Wanda, and what do we know about their past? Well, Cosmo is the son of Papa Cosmo and Mama Cosmo. Gotta say, really creative choice with the names, huh? Cosmo was quite the troublemaker from the get-go. When he got his hands on his first wand, he turned his own dad into a fly. And at 5 years old, in art classes, he ended up causing an explosion that rocked the entire class. Then, at the tender age of 8, Mama Cosmo thought sports would be a good idea for him. But instead of turning his discs into cute creatures like other fairy kids, Cosmo went all out and turned his disc into a fire-breathing three-headed hydra named Snowball. He was instated into the Fairy Academy to learn some discipline, but his time there was anything but smooth sailing. It turns out, Jorgen was his 5-star fairy commander during that crazy period. Right from the start, Cosmo caused disasters left and right. On his first day of 6th grade, he turned a poor little bird into that snowball dragon, causing fires and mayhem all over the place. Jorgen had had enough and sentenced him to toilet duty for the rest of his academy days. But as Cosmo grew, so did the chaos he brought with him. In the 7th grade, he made Pompeii go boom by triggering the volcano. Then, during his freshman year, he sunk Atlantis. And, as if that wasn't enough, during his sophomore year, he turned the high-tech utopia into good old Pittsburgh. But to top it all off, Cosmo was such a dumb kid that the Supreme Fairy Council banned fairies from having children. So, ever since he was born, there has not been a single fairy baby, making him the youngest fairy in existence. Meanwhile, Wanda's got quite the backstory. She was born in fairy world to her dad, Big Daddy, and some mysterious, unknown mother like thousands of years ago. Oh, and she's got a twin sister named Blonda, who her mom liked more. Blonda went for the easy life, while Wanda took on the hard-working daughter role in the family. As she grew up, she dated a muscular fairy, Wandissimo Magnifico. Although their relationship didn't last, he would continue to try and win her over, which would make for some hilarious encounters. However, Wanda would ultimately end up with Cosmo, and oh man, you won't believe how these two ended up together. So, 9,850 years ago, in the fairy world, Cosmo, the lovable idiot, crossed paths with Wanda at a restaurant. But, of course, he managed to spill the entire dish right on her face. I mean, classic Cosmo, right? But it was love at first sight for both of them. So, despite Cosmo's clumsy and loserish ways, Wanda saw something special in him, and they eventually tied the knot. Their wedding day was quite the adventure, though. Cosmo was so scatterbrained that he forgot what to say at the altar and had to sneak a peek at his notes on his arm before saying "I do." During the cake-cutting moment, he face-planted Wanda with the wedding cake. I mean, it's truly a love story like no other, filled with quirks and mishaps. But hey, opposites attract, right? From that point on, they have taken the role of godparents who grant wishes to the sad Earth kids. Now, on a side note, Cosmo's mother was completely against the idea of him marrying Wanda, which is why he never told her about their marriage. Alright, fast forward several thousand years to Earth on March 13th, 1962, and voila! Denzel Crocker came into the world. Now, every cartoon has to have a disfigured villain that has a miserable past. I mean, Phineas and Ferb had Dr. Hines, Flapjack had Captain Knuckles, and for this show, it's Denzel Crocker. Denzel was this cute and kind little kid who loved lending a hand to others. But life wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for him. His mom was hardly ever around since she was too busy bowling, skating, or working at some 8-track company. And if that wasn't rough enough, he had to deal with an evil babysitter named Vic, making him feel pretty miserable. But hold on, there's a silver lining to this tale. Things took a turn for the better when he got his very own fairy godparents. Yep, Cosmo and Wanda. On March 14th, 1972, Crocker would save Timmy's father from a car accident, and because of his heroics, March 15th would be declared Denzel Crocker Day. So the next day, he would go to the city hall where the whole city was gathered to celebrate his heroics. However, he accidentally spilled the beans about his fairies in front of the whole town, and this leads to a major cleanup operation by Jorgen von Strangle, who obviously had to erase Crocker's memory of ever having those fairies. Additionally, an overdose of forget-a-sin from the memory wipers left Crocker horribly disfigured, which is why he looks so, well, not pleasant in the present. Poor guy. And to make matters even worse, since everyone in the town forgot about all the nice things he did with his fairies, they assumed he must be some angry mob and started chasing him down. However, amidst the chaos, Crocker cleverly left a note to himself reminding him about the existence of fairies. So, even if his memories were wiped, he had this little secret weapon to keep him obsessed with proving that fairies were real and out there in the world. 1982 was the big year for Denzel, and after 4 years of intense research in college, his moment had finally come. A grand seminar was held, and all the big shots, military officials, and the brightest minds of the country were present. Denzel was all set to reveal the mind-blowing truth about the existence of fairies. But, oh boy, of course things didn't quite go as planned. When he suggested putting collars on kids to control their fairies, the whole room burst into laughter, dismissing his idea as a big old joke. Even after everyone laughed at him, he continued to make plans for catching fairies. In 1992, Crocker joins the elementary school because the school has kids, and kids have fairies. I'm sure you can connect the dots here. From that day onwards, he became the villain who would purposely torment kids to lure out their fairy godparents. But, on a side note, since everyone's memory was wiped clean by Jorgen, not even Wanda and Cosmo remember the time they were the godparent to Denzel Crocker. Now, let's talk about Timmy's parents. You know what's the most interesting part of their existence? Even after a whopping 10 seasons of the show, we still don't know their real names. It's like the biggest secret ever. So, the entire fan base, and even the characters in the show, just call them Mom and Dad. Sometimes they're given the polite title of Mr. and Mrs. Turner, but their true, original names remain hidden in the shadows. So first we have Dad, who is literally in a head-to-head competition with Cosmo for being the dumbest character in the entire show. And then there's Mom. Mom's family can actually be traced back to this little country in Eastern Europe called Ustinkistan. Her folks, Gladys and Vlad, moved to Dimsdale somewhere in the 1950s to start up their Yak-in-the-Box fast food chain. Sometime in the early 60s, they had a daughter whom we call Mom. Then, in 1972, when Dad was a kid, he had this huge crush on Mom, but she didn't even know he existed. So he hatched this genius plan to win a marathon and impress her with the trophy. But here's the crazy part. Winning that trophy was like the most important thing ever for the timeline. If he had lost, he would have been sent to dictator school of all places. From there, he would have graduated with flying colors, taken over the world, and who knows what else. But anyways, he won the race and he managed to impress her for the time being. However, Mom was all chummy with this guy named Sheldon Dinkelberg, and you could see Dad getting all jelly and jealous. Fast forward 10 years, Dad's a janitor and Mom's a cheerleader at Dimsdale High. And wouldn't you know it, Dad falls head over heels for her all over again. But Sheldon's already taken the spotlight. Turns out luck was on Dad's side when Sheldon struck it rich with those parachute pants he invented. With all that money in his pocket, Sheldon ditched Mom, leaving the door wide open for Dad to swoop in and be the shoulder that she needed to cry on. In the year 1992, Mom and Dad were already happily married, and to add to their joy, Mom was pregnant with Timmy. They were super excited to move into their new home, where they planned to welcome their precious baby into the world. Dad was so thrilled about having a baby girl that he went all out buying girly pink stuff. That explains all the pictures of Timmy in pink dresses. Anyways, there was a surprise waiting for them right next door. Sheldon Dinkelberg. Can you imagine Dad's dismay at having Sheldon as a neighbor? Anyways, on March 21st, 1992, Timmy entered the world all cute and cuddly. You'd think his parents would be super careful with their firstborn, right? Well, they were actually quite neglectful of him. When Timmy was just a baby, his parents ran off to who knows where and left him with Pappy Turner. Now, Pappy was an old and forgetful man, so he let Timmy suck on a pacifier all day, which gave poor Timmy those huge, horrible buck teeth. When Timmy was 8, his father had an unhealthy obsession with recording everything that he ever did. He had huge files of videotapes that documented Timmy's entire childhood life. Meanwhile, Mom was feeling overwhelmed with motherly duties and wanted some time to herself, so she suggested hiring a babysitter. Now, Dad was initially against the idea, but after they convinced Timmy that they would be gone for a long time, he called the babysitter himself. Despite Dad's attempts to stop it, Mom insisted. And that's when Vicky entered Timmy Turner's life. Vicky seemed like the perfect caretaker, impressing Mom and Dad with her antics. She even offered to videotape everything Timmy did so Dad wouldn't miss a thing. Tempted by the idea, Mom and Dad agreed and left Timmy with Vicky. Now, as soon as Timmy's parents left, Vicky turned into a total nightmare. She used a flamethrower to toast poor Timmy's toys and then trashed his dad's videotapes. From then on, Timmy's life went straight down the pooper. For a whole year, Vicky made him do every chore imaginable, scrubbing toilets, doing dishes, and even mopping the floors. So, when Timmy had had enough of Vicky's nonsense, he chucked that lucky 9-ball at the wall out of frustration, and bam! 2 fairy godparents, Cosmo and Wanda, popped out of there like magic. From that moment on, Timmy's life took a wild turn for the better. Cosmo and Wanda granted his every wish, making his days a whole lot more enjoyable. And oh boy, Timmy didn't hold back when it came to getting back at Vicky with the help of his fairy godparents. From trapping her in jelly to showering her with wet cream and even putting her giant cherry on her head, he sure knew how to get creative with his revenge. Oh, and turning her into a fly? That right there's some serious payback. Can you imagine the chaos when he chased her down with a fly swatter? Dude, Timmy definitely knew how to use his wishes to teach Vicky a lesson or two. Now, although it is never explicitly shown why Vicky is the way that she is, one possible theory is that she had a rough childhood. Also, she has a younger sister named Tootie, and you know how sibling rivalry goes. Maybe her parents gave Tootie the love that she never received, which is why she started disliking younger kids and foiled a plan to torture them. I mean, there's always some hidden backstory for such characters, but I mean, it could also just be that Vicky was born this way. Although most of Vicky's encounters with Timmy are troubling, she seems to care about him on many occasions. In fact, even in the first episode of the show, when Timmy goes missing, she rushes to the police station to file a report. And at the end of Wishology, the exciting middle part, she is visibly miserable because she thinks Timmy's dead. Now this just goes to show that deep down, she does in fact care for Timmy. I don't know, man. She's a very complicated character, alright? Oh, and as for Timmy's parents, they're totally clueless. They have absolutely no idea about Vicky's evil ways, and they're totally in the dark about the fairy godparents too. So yeah, in pretty much every episode, they peace out of the house, leaving Timmy all alone to go on these crazy adventures. Timmy's school life isn't exactly a walk in the park either. Not only does he have to deal with that mean bully Francis, but his teacher, Mr. Denzel Crocker, isn't making things any easier. However, he has his loyal companions Chester and AJ to make up for it. AJ is the total brainiac of the gang, and you know, rumor has it, he's the smartest pants out of the whole school. On the other hand, we've got Chester, who's the goofball with a heart of gold. He comes from a not-so-rich family, and his dad, Bucky, has this quirky habit of wearing a paper bag on his head. But you know what? These two, along with Timmy, make an inseparable trio. So he's got 2 backup buds, Sanjay and Elmer. Now, these 2 are even bigger losers than our trio, but hey, they're still part of the squad, right? Elmer's got this big ol' boil he named Bob, And let me tell you, Bob's got some grand ambitions, like ruling the world. Yeah, good luck with that one, buddy. So, a lot happens in the show, and if I were to cover every little thing, we would be here all day. So, I'm gonna quickly go through the major events. Cool? Cool. So, in one episode, Timmy's science fair wish takes him back to the coolest lab in the entire universe, which just so happens to be Jimmy Neutron's lab. Talk about a crossover, am I right? But here's the twist. Jimmy accidentally zaps himself into Timmy's universe. Now they're both stuck in each other's worlds, and you can imagine the craziness that follows. Meanwhile, in this same epic episode, Mr. Crocker finally gets his lifelong dream fulfilled. He manages to steal one of Jimmy's teleportation gizmos and finds himself in the fairy world. Fairies are real after all. But you know how it goes with Jorgen. This guy's the memory erasing expert, and once everything's settled, Mr. Crocker's memories get wiped clean again. Oh man, back to square one again. The birth of Poof. So, sometime after Timmy got his fairy godparents, he noticed how they were totally distracted by the sight of babies, even to the point that they started neglecting him. That's when Timmy found out that babies had been banned ever since Cosmo was born. But you know Timmy. He's just full of ideas. He suggests wishing up a baby, and after finding a clever loophole in the rules, the three of them go for it. However, to Timmy's total surprise, it's not Wanda, but Cosmo who ends up pregnant, all thanks to some wacky fairy rule. For the next 3 months, Cosmo's pregnancy was a wild ride for Timmy, with throwing up, weird cravings, mood swings, and everything in between. Finally, the big day arrived, and Jorgen and the council showed up to make sure everything went smoothly. After lots of chaos, the baby was finally born. It turned out to be an adorable little cutie with purple eyes. Soon after, the anti-fairies and pixies both went after the baby to use its power for universal domination. I mean, you can imagine the chaos that ensued. Just a few hours after being born, the baby started showing some crazy magic skills and even granted Timmy's wish for a stroller. Then things got totally out of control, and its magic almost wrecked the whole city. At one point, those pixies and anti-fairies ganged up and tricked Timmy into giving them the baby. Man, all hell was breaking loose. Now, Cosmo, Wanda, Timmy, and Jorgen are all teaming up to rescue the baby from the anti-fairy world. On the flip side, Anti-Cosmo and HP have this wild plan to steal the baby's power and use it for their anti-fairy wand, which can apparently wipe out the entire fairy world. In the end, they totally pulled it off and rescued the baby, undoing all the chaos it caused in the process. The baby turned out to be a boy, and when he blurted out Poof as his first word, they were like, "That's it, we're gonna name him Poof." So that's how Poof became a part of Timmy, Cosmo, and Wanda's lives. Okay, so remember how I said every anti-fairy is a wicked version of a fairy? Well, Poof's arrival means that there's gotta be an anti-Poof too, right? Well, say hello to Foop. He's the total opposite of Poof, an evil mastermind. Even meaner than his dad, Anti-Cosmo. Soon after coming to the world, Foop started feeling all left out cause everyone was showering Poof with love and attention. So he cooked up this plan to spread terror all around just so he can grab the spotlight and be at the center of it all. The whole city becomes a battleground as Poof and Anti-Poof battle it out, and it got so bad that even Jorgen was unable to stop Poof's madness. The fairies and anti-fairies were both affected by Foop, so they team up against him, but even that failed. But no matter how strong Foop is, he's just a newborn after all, and newborns need a lot of sleep. So, when Timmy realized that Foop is getting tired, he gathers everyone to sing a lullaby, which made him fall asleep immediately. But one problem still remained. The damage he had done was still there. Timmy thought that since Foop used his powers with laughter, making him cry would have the opposite effect. And man, that worked like a charm. All the damage he did was reverted. In the end, Foop was kept in a maximum security playpen in Abracatraz, but he promised to return one day and get revenge. In the start of this video, I mentioned how fairies fought the darkness and are now waiting for a chosen one to locate the magic wand and destroy it forever. That chosen one just so happens to be our boy Timmy Turner with his pink hat and his buck teeth. Well, at least for now. It's not long before the Eliminators locate him and start chasing him down. In a chaotic battle, Jorgen gets sucked into the darkness after saving Timmy's life, and soon after, the whole fairy world is consumed by the darkness. Here we go, back on Earth at a Kiss concert in Las Vegas of all places. Timmy finds the magic wand, and guess what? Kiss, yup, the rock band, turns out to be fairy guardians. Their guitar is the white wand, and they've been guarding it for centuries. That's crazy, right? At first, they don't believe Timmy when he claims he's the chosen one, but when those wicked Eliminators come after him, Kiss starts to think there might be some truth to it after all. And then, just when things couldn't get any wilder, the darkness shows up. It tries to swallow everyone at the concert, but guess what our hero Timmy does? He grabs that magical white wand guitar and starts jamming with some rock and roll magic. Burst after burst, he pushes the darkness back, and you wouldn't believe it. The darkness retreats, taking those nasty Eliminators with it. Oh, and to top it all off, all the planets that it had consumed, including Fairy World, are set free. But hold on to your hats, because things take a very dark turn. The darkness makes a sneaky comeback and captures all the fairies and Timmy's pals. Timmy's gotta think outside the box and ends up seeking help from his own enemies. Yep, that's right, even Crocker, Dark Laser, and the dreaded Vicky join the team. Honestly, who would have thought? Turns out there's a second wand that they need to find if they want to defeat this darkness. And to make matters even crazier, Timmy's not even the real chosen one. It's this super buff dude called Turbo Thunder who looks just like Timmy. But hey, since he's fashionably late to the party, let's just pretend that he doesn't exist for now. Sorry, Turbo. In an epic showdown, Timmy, his whole crew, and even his family are all in danger of being swallowed by the darkness. But here's where it gets very interesting. Timmy sacrifices himself and allows the darkness to capture him. The darkness uses some kind of illusion to make everything look normal so that Timmy does not fulfill his role as the chosen one. But soon enough, Timmy sees through its illusion and escapes the darkness with his fairies. The darkness wants him back, but one of its own Eliminators rebels against it and seeks to kill Timmy once and for all. After Timmy reunites with his family and friends, this Eliminator finds him and sends all of his friends into the darkness. After a lot of chaos, he uses its newfound magical powers to completely solidify the Earth in giant steel and turns the military into his robotic henchmen. With his back against the wall, Timmy decides to seek out Turbo Thunder once again. Miraculously, Turbo Thunder finally accepts Timmy as the true chosen one and passes his powers on to Timmy. Now, our hero proudly calls himself Turbo Timmy. Timmy zooms back to Fairy World and frees the captured fairies. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jorgen finds himself captured by the wicked Eliminator. This evil villain plans to blow up the entire planet, hoping to obliterate the darkness by striking its heart. Turbo Timmy comes to the rescue with an army of millions of fairies. Together, they work their magic and restore Earth back to normal. He even defeats the Eliminator and gets his hands on the third wand. Okay guys, I promise this is the final wand. Just as Timmy is about to face the darkness, he realizes that people have always attacked first, meaning it was only defending itself. Its obsession with Timmy stems from the fact that he's the only one who never sent anything harmful into it. All it ever wanted was a friend. Touched by this revelation, Timmy decides not to destroy the darkness, but instead uses his wand powers to transform it from darkness to kindness. This act of compassion brings about a miraculous change, and the darkness releases all of Timmy's friends and family. Woo! Crisis averted! The universe is now a brighter place, all thanks to Turbo Timmy's big heart and his ability to see the good even in the darkest of beings. This is considered by many the canon ending of Fairly OddParents, and you know what? I actually agree with that. However, there are a few notable things that happen after this, quote, ending. For example, on the big day of Timmy's millionth wish, Fairy World is all hyped up for the celebration, but the Fairy Council reviews Timmy's wishes and decides that he should be put on trial for being the worst godchild ever. Wanda, Cosmo, and Poof are determined to prove Timmy's a good kid, but things take a wild turn when Foop reveals that Timmy has a secret wish that nobody else knew about. Well, except Cosmo, who somehow forgot he even granted it. That secret wish just so happens to be that everyone would stop aging forever so that he would never lose his fairy godparents. To make matters worse, he had made this wish 50 years ago. The council erases everyone's memories, undoes all his wishes, including Poof, and forwards the time 50 years on Earth, where we see an old Timmy with a white beard. He does not remember anything about fairies, but somehow finds his way to the fairy world using a portal in Crocker's cave. There, he makes his fairies remember their past, and the three enter Hocus Pocus. There, he makes his fairies remember their past, and the three enter Hocus Pocus, which is a plane that holds all the undone wishes. They successfully rescue Poof and the others, and Timmy faces the court once more. He opens up, revealing that he made the wish because Wanda and Cosmo are like family to him, and he couldn't bear a life without them. Tearfully, he pleads for the council to let him keep Cosmo and Wanda, even without the wishes. Moved by his heartfelt plea, the whole council breaks down in tears. They reverse their previous ruling, declaring him not the worst fairy god kid ever, and they grant him his fairies back. Timmy then turns back time on Earth by 50 years, restoring everything and everyone to how they were before the secret wish. In the end, he proclaims his lesson learned: never ever make another secret wish. Alright folks, if you've stuck around till now, you have gone through the entire timeline of the Fairly OddParents. Well, so far. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon for similar content.